District 51, which is in Alamogordo. In an ideal world, taxpayer institutions would be transparent, accountable, and would have open communication with elected officials, their state, and also the taxpayers. We are here today, however, because UNM has failed to operate in an open and transparent manner. They have violated the trust of the New Mexico people. Last year, a congressional investigation found serious allegations and ethical violations in the collaboration between UNM Health Science Center and Southwestern Women's Options Late-Term Abortion Clinic. These violations were so severe and shocking, the congressional panel delivered not only one, but 2 criminal referrals to the New Mexico Attorney General, Hector Balderas. To our knowledge, UNM officials have taken no corrective action. Throughout the last 2 years, New Mexico residents, legislators, and Congressman Steve Pierce have been requesting transparency, cooperation, and information from UNM regarding these issues. There is a host of not only highly questionable practices and ethical concerns, like, for instance, the use of a 7-month-old aborted infant's brains used in a summer camp for dissection. We are not going to tolerate this. These violate both federal and state statute, UNM's own policy, and federal regulation. I stand today with my colleagues because we want to understand why it is necessary for UNM researchers to be ordering these types of practices. And remember, I said dissecting a 7-month-old baby's brains in a summer camp. We want to understand how UNM doctors can leave an infant born alive to die without care. And we want to understand how the taxpayer funding for UNM Health Science Center is being handled. We want to understand why women receiving abortions are lied to about the donation of the infant body and the parts of those bodies for research. We've been asking these questions repeatedly, and we stand here today because we still do not have the answers. I would like to introduce to you Congressman Steve Pierce, who has taken the lead on this issue in Washington, D.C., who stands with us, and who for the last year has been asking the same questions. Congressman Pierce.
Thanks, Yvette. Appreciate each one of you who are here today, and you have characterized correctly. Now, the issue of the sale of body parts from Planned Parenthood and other abortion organizations was turned over to the Select Committee about 2 years ago. It was not known exactly what was transpiring, but they wanted to ask questions. Very soon, members of that committee began to come up and said, one of your universities in New Mexico keeps appearing in much of the dialogue that's occurring. And so we called the University of New Mexico. They came in and visited with me in my office in DC, not once but twice, where we said, please understand that this is quite a bit deeper than what anyone at the school thinks. Please don't take this lightly. Please cooperate with the select panel because they have the full range of authority of the Congress in front of them. The select committee would show me documents, the entire transcript, which was redacted out. Now, at the same time, the select committee would show me the document. All they were asking for is for UNM to provide the same one. They had the answer. They were just wanting to see if UNM would cooperate, and never did UNM do that. And so we said, please, this does not have to go this direction. It can be dealt with, but you must start being honest and straightforward about what's going on. Those inquiries all the way up to and advising the new Board of Regents after the governor had moved the medical school out from underneath the medical school boards of regents into the broader school. We notified that the head of the Board of Regents and said, this is going to be somewhat more serious than what anyone is thinking. Please do something. Don't let it get to the end result. Never did they bother to come to DC and meet. We offered to meet with them here. Never did they meet with us here. And so we are left wondering, why did you, at the University of New Mexico, allow this to go all the way to criminal referrals? Not one, but two. Two criminal referrals from a flagship university in the state. Again, it did not have to be this way. We could have begun to address the issues straightforwardly months before. Now then, we're calling on Hector Balderas to follow through. You have the issues in front of you. Now, just to make no mistake, this is not an issue of you're either for abortion or against it. This is about a violation of existing law of use of the tissue and the organs from the aborted babies. That's what it's about. It is against the law. It is clearly against the law, and that's the narrow seam in which we are trying to get the conversation going. It would have been easy to look the other way and act like we didn't know. I think that's what the university wanted us to do. But to tell you the truth in issues like this, how can you be silent? How can you be silent when the mothers were not informed? They did not sign consent forms. They weren't even given the consent forms. The university said, well, we weren't even aware of it. And the abortion clinic said, we're not even aware that consent was required. How can moms make a choice with their children not knowing that the organs are going to be used for research? These are some of the questions that tear at the very human fabric, that tear at our heart, that make us question exactly what are the values that would not insist on advising young mothers to be of the outcome. So we are here today with this brave and valiant group of state legislators. They are in the process of turning in legislation, HB 37, the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. Just as its name says, if an infant is born alive, we should take different actions than if it is aborted. And yet, one doctor at UNM says, well, I don't really see the relevance of that question, whether or not they're born alive, what relevance that has to me. Again, you simply gasp as you hear these sorts of and read these sorts of testimonies. The second bill, which David Gallegos is going to drop tomorrow, will deal with the funding for UNM until they get transparent and open and honest about this. So I'm just here to say thanks to a courageous group of state representatives who are doing what we all should do. Any society is measured by how much it speaks for those with no power, those with no voice, those with no status. There is no group with lesser voice than the unborn, and so I'm here to support them in their efforts, and God bless you all, God bless them. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman, and with that, I'd like to introduce Representative Rob Montoya to say a few words.
Thank you for coming today. As Congressman Pierce mentioned, an inquiry into various questions, starting with at UNM Health Sciences Center at UNM Hospital, began about 2 years ago. Elisa Martinez, who's with the New Mexico Alliance for Life, submitted several questions to me concerning the practices at UNM, both in their abortion practices and their procurement of fetal tissue remains for research. And since I was brand new 2 years ago, I took those questions and I just submitted them to all of the other members, the other Republican members in my caucus, as well as several senators. And from that, what I found was not quite the refusal to answer questions, but not necessarily answering the questions that were asked. In a couple of instances, it became clear that there was some specific misinformation that we were given. And because of that, the group behind me, as well as we had 30 folks, 30 legislators sign on to the initial inquiry. This last year, another 25 members submitted a similar list of questions and concerns to the Board of Regents. And what we found out from that inquiry is that from the very Board of Regents, they say they do not have control over the Health Sciences Center. UNM Health Sciences Center, quite frankly, has no oversight outside of themselves. Within that group, who were asked to go and testify to a select panel in the Select Panel on Infant Lives in Washington, D.C., some of the misrepresentations to us came out, which was, in fact, we asked for a list of what kind of body parts were being used, what were the gestational ages of these body parts, information that they told us that they did not keep these records because they were not required to keep these records, somehow did appear in Congress when they were subpoenaed. But since we have no subpoena power, they felt like as if they did not have to answer the state legislators who appropriate their funding. But out of that, and Representative Gallegos is carrying legislation to, if the only recourse we have is UNM's funding, then that is going to be what we are going to be trying to get a hold of. But out of that, there was a particular bit of testimony that was disturbing. The Federal Federal Born Alive Infant Protection Act declares any child that is born, even through the process of an abortion procedure, if they're born showing signs of life, the Born Alive Infant Protection Act declares them to be United States citizens, having all rights as such. When questioned, the administrator of UNM Hospital was, actually it may not be the administrator, the OBGYN department, the head of that department, said that she was unaware of what that had to do with their practice. And I'm going to read a little bit of the deposition that took place. So the question to the administrator: so does your curriculum call for training of doctors on what to do if a child was born alive? Answer: no. Question: no training at all? Answer: no. Question: there's no resuscitation training? Answer: OBGYN doctors do not resuscitate neonates. Now, this testimony is particularly troubling since the signature of this particular administrator appears on UNM protocol and policy documents which state, quote, the intended abortus may be born with signs of life. And on a different document that her signature appears on, when an inducted abortion results in a live-born infant showing any signs of life, such as a heartbeat or voluntary movement, a birth certificate should be completed. This is very concerning because we have self-reporting is what's going on across the country, and in calendar year 2014, there were 500 self-reported without any requirements in any of these other states. 500 reports of born alive infants that fit this description. So that is why I'm carrying the Born Alive Infant Protection Act here in New Mexico, because as declared by Congress, these children are United States citizens. And as far as we're concerned, that they are citizens of the state of New Mexico and they deserve protection. So I proudly introduced that this year, and I'm hoping to get broad support on this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. And I'm not sure if I see Representative Dow, but Representative...
She's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Rebecca Dow. Sorry, you were...
Hello, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Rebecca Dow. I'm a representative from Sierra County, Grant County, and Hidalgo County. This is my first session as an elected representative, and what was clear to me as I traveled across my district and met with constituents is that they want accountability and transparency in government. Not only with government, but those institutions and organizations that receive state funding. And it appears that there is an issue here. As a pro-life woman and as a pro-life mother, I was very honored and eager to sign on to the Infant Born Alive Protection Act. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'd like to introduce Elisa Martinez, the Executive Director of New Mexico Alliance for Life. Hello. Thank you all for being here today. Again, I stand here with our New Mexico legislators and U.S. Congressman Steve Pierce, asking the same questions. And when we have our own public citizens, myself, our New Mexico legislators, a U.S. congressman, and a body of Congress that cannot get answers from a public institution, we know that there is a problem. In fact, there is a massive cover-up and scandal ongoing at the University of New Mexico. And it is regrettable that it has come to this. There is not only a host of highly questionable practices and ethical concerns, like the use of a 7-month-old aborted infant brains to dissect with summer camp students, but multiple violations of both federal and state statute, UNM's own policies, and federal regulations. Yet to date, UNM officials have taken no corrective action to restore public trust and compliance with the various laws and regulations that they have violated. Where is the accountability? It's time for UNM to come clean. Even the most basic public records of the state of New Mexico, UNM has withheld or redacted from a federal investigation, as noted in the Congressional Panel's interim report. And UNM officials still to date have not fully complied with those subpoenaed documents and our requests for information. Yet have resources to hire an international law firm based in London, England, in addition to their own staff of attorneys, all paid by taxpayer dollars. However, they cannot answer simple questions from the public or lawmakers. Not only have UNM Health Science Center's officials shown a total lack of respect for human life, but also a total lack of respect for the rule of law, as well as to the taxpayers who fund their salaries. Through NM Alliance for Life's investigations, we have had at least a dozen open records violations in asking for documents required by federal regulation, and we have been told no such documents exist more times than I can count. UNM is either violating federal regulations that they are required to maintain these documents, or federal state open records laws. It is to the point now where we have had to file a lawsuit in order to obtain some of these public records of the state of New Mexico. Additionally, UNM Health Science Center, in collaboration with Southwestern Women's Options Late-Term Abortion Clinic, has not provided a legal consent form to hundreds, if not thousands, of New Mexico women in order to donate their aborted infant body parts for research. Again, in failing to do so, they have taken advantage of countless women who may have had a decision to choose life, to choose otherwise. That is the case of Jessica Duran, who is also currently suing Southwestern Women's Options for a violation of her rights. I stand here as a woman and as a taxpayer of New Mexico demanding accountability, and that these practices that take advantage of women to end. The majority of New Mexicans do not want our tax dollars used to exploit women and to take human life. Again, it is for these reasons I stand today with Congressman Pierce and our New Mexico legislators in support of legislation to bring about accountability at UNM Health Science Center. In addition, accountability with abortion providers here in our state, which is why I support HB 37. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. And then finally, I'd like to introduce Representative Dennis Roche.
Thanks, Yvette. I was privileged to participate in a meeting at UNM Health Science Center with a number of my colleagues about 18 months ago. We actually met in person with Dr. Paul Roth, the chancellor there at UNM Health Science Center, and we asked him specifically, what about these stories we're hearing? What about the body parts being transferred from the clinic to the university for research purposes? And he said, we're not required to keep any of those records. We don't have anything to give you. Well, imagine our surprise that, just about 18 months later, we actually get a copy of all of the logbooks that the university kept, of all of the pieces of tissue that they received. And I just want to highlight a couple of these pieces that are especially alarming to us. And we've talked about some of them, but on page 34 of this logbook, the notes appear to celebrate that they received an entire pancreas, and I quote, an entire pancreas, and a smiley face next to the notation. Somebody was very excited to be able to receive this organ, although it was illegally transferred without the consent of the parent. Page 46, the notes record, there was a broken stomach received and no pancreas, and a frown face next to that note, because someone was disappointed not to have received something that they wanted for research. On page 41, intact brains from 20-week-old twins. And on page 24, we've heard repeatedly from folks here that have testified already, an employee of the university requested whole fixed brains to dissect with summer camp students. I'll tell you, I'm a public educator in New Mexico. I'm an administrator in a K-12 education system in our state. If I did that as an educator, I would lose my license. It's as an educator, that offends me. And as a father, it sickens me. National Review, a national publication, wrote an article about these egregious violations, and they actually indicated in their article that UNM, this is our observation, UNM arranged to have children dissect the brains of younger children. That ought to fly in the face of everyone's sense of morality. And it's a clear violation of law. So Dr. Roth and his staff, while stiff-arming us for records requests that we needed to exercise proper oversight, at the same time, as a member of the Appropriations Committee at the time, I was receiving requests from UNM for increased funding in a lot of their areas. They certainly didn't mind talking to legislators about their needs for dollars, but they certainly wouldn't give us any answers when we had questions about their less ethical practices. So I stand with this group of legislators to say, enough is enough.
Thank you, Representative Raj. And I just want the group to know that there are many other legislators that stand with us, but most of them are in committees right now. And as you can tell, these are compelling stories. We are asking for accountability and transparency. And we're doing it not only because we are upholding our values and the values of the state of New Mexico, but taxpayer dollars are used to fund University of New Mexico. We feel that they should come to the table with the information that we've been requesting repeatedly. And we think it's time that the public understands just how grotesque and wrong this is. And I too am a pro-life legislator, and I am a taxpayer, and I am proud to be here with Congressman Pierce, with Elisa, with our colleagues that support pro-life. But more importantly, we need to be honest with ourselves and understand that this is a huge problem, and we have got to address it. No more hiding behind closed doors, no more not having the documentation or the availability to meet with us or answer us. New Mexico deserves to know the answers to these questions, and I stand with Representative David Gallegos. If we can't get the answers, then I'm sorry, we might not be able to fund UNM either. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, we have a handout.
Oh, and Representative is telling me that we have, Rod Montoya is telling me that we have a handout if anybody's interested in it with some of the information that was shared here today. Thank you very much.
Good job, Paul.